Zapiro, better known as Jonathan Shapiro to his friends, family and the world. Success deluxe. I mean, you must be one of the most prolific cartoonists in the world.
Gee, I don't know. I know still there are people who do as many cartoons as I used to do, which is 6 a week or 7 a week. I do slightly fewer now, but one of the things that's fantastic about living in South Africa is that cartooning has moved onto a kind of center stage that very few countries actually have. I mean, I have been told by some of the people who monitor what happens in cartoons around the world that we as South African cartoonists have as much influence on what goes on or as much, we are heard as much as anywhere in the world.
Do you ever feel like you're being controlled?
I feel like people try. It's weird. I mean, I feel like I'm the kind of person, I was almost too well behaved at school. And it was when I decided there were things to revolt against that I just started seeing a different side of myself, and I just have to go for it. So sometimes I do feel that there are certain pressures on me, but when those pressures happen, if I've decided already that I have to go in a certain direction, then I'll just go.
Do you feel that being a cartoonist really is your weapon?
I think it is. I saw myself change when I was at university. I was more or less, I was thinking kind of progressively. I was supporting the anti-apartheid struggle, but I wasn't really doing anything. But the day that I got that final call-up from the army, where I'd been trying to stay out of the army and study architecture, and the day I got that call-up and they said, you're going to report in 3 weeks' time, something just clicked, and I just said, okay, now I'm an activist. I really felt that, and I also felt that maybe there's a way to start using my cartoons. So the two things sort of moved together, the activism and the cartoons, from then onwards.
Did you go to the army?
I did. I went for the full 2 years in those days, because I went in the middle of 1982, and I refused to carry a gun. That was my first little act of defiance. And then they really harassed me for about 6-7 weeks. They tried to break me, and one of the really nasty ways that armies try, I think armies across the world, in particular the apartheid army, was they tried to turn people against you, get your fellow troops to beat you up. They subtly put out the word that you can be beaten up, and it was difficult. I made friends quite easily, so nobody beat me up, but I had a few pretty hectic encounters.
I found that during those years, a lot of the Jewish guys, and of course you're obviously Jewish with the name Zapiro, they put you in the kitchens. Did you get put in the kitchens?
I didn't get put in the kitchens. I had to use the word maverick now. I mean, every time I used to use the word maverick, but I feel it's been messed up by the American right-wingers like John McCain, who calls himself a maverick. So I don't want to be a maverick anymore. But I was certainly kind of out of the ordinary. I stood out among the 700 as somebody who was sort of different. And I was eventually given a lead pole to carry instead of a rifle. And this thing would fall apart on the parade grounds. They'd say shoulder arms, I'd pick it up, and it was put together with sort of wire and nails. They'd all expand. And so I wasn't, and I didn't identify with trying to sort of shirk the physical stuff. I'm afraid there were some Jewish people in the army who had that reputation. And that wasn't the thing. I just wanted to be seen as somebody who was there under protest. But I certainly, I didn't kind of get put in the kitchens and sort of shirk the physical. I did all the physical, but I just refused to touch a gun.
If I had to write a book about you, I'd say you've never stopped protesting.
Since that time, that was from '82 onwards. I've sort of shifted in and out of hard protest gear.
If you look at a rather macabre side of things, on your gravestone when you go, what would you like as the epitaph there? I mean, Spike Milligan said, I told you I was sick.
I remember the Spike Milligan one. Yeah. Somebody asked me the other day, and I said, the late Jonathan Shapiro, unfortunately I am often late. So, yeah. I suppose slightly better one. I'll be finished in a minute.
In the Jewish religion, of course, the tribes by the graveside. I can imagine the tribes that would be at the side of your grave. It was rather a macabre subject, but it could be quite amusing, eh? Yeah.
I mean, it touches on something that's quite difficult, because as a Jew, I'm not claimed. As a Jew who's sometimes in the public eye, I'm not often claimed by the Jewish community, because I do very, very strongly anti-political Zionist cartoons. I feel political Zionism has been a complete mistake.
Are you against what Israel's doing at the moment?
I'm so angry with Israel. I mean, it appalls me at every opportunity.
Is that because Benjamin Netanyahu is in power at the moment, or is that long term?
Name your Israeli prime minister, and they just shades of difference. The right wing or the so-called left wing. I mean, it's not really a left wing. It's all like way shifted to the right, and it's all about protection, and it's nothing about actually ending the occupation and ending the persecution of the Palestinians.
You know, getting down to the bit nitty-gritty, and a lot of people would be very curious. You talked about being an architectural student at university. When did the shift come, and what made you not go into architecture?
When I was 15, 16, I was like a lot of kids my age, looking around for what I was going to do, and I didn't know. In the back of my mind, it was always, is there a way to be a cartoonist? I mean, since I was about 8 or 9, that was my ambition. In fact, to be a comic artist. The first real massive influence for me was Tintin when I was about 7, and then Peanuts at 8 or 9, and then a number of others. And I wanted to be an assistant to either Hergé or to Charles Schulz.
But yours is a social outcry. It's almost Dickensian, isn't it? It's
that kind of came later, because when I was a teenager, the one great South African cartoonist who I was influenced by, who I certainly was looking at in those days, was the Cape Times cartoonist, who's not that well known outside of Cape Town, which is, to me, is crazy. To me, he's the greatest cartoonist of that era, David Marais. Now, he's not perhaps as refined a draftsman as some of the other cartoonists who were working, who are better known, I suppose, across the country. But David Marais was a journalist by training, and he had a great mind. And for me, cartooning is about activism. It's about advocacy. Let's say it's about advocacy. It's about putting forward your opinions, and in my case, progressive opinions. And that's what I saw from him, with a very lateral thinking, brilliant twist on things. Now, I didn't see that always coming from the other cartoonists. And I think that some of them were liberal in the broad sense. They were not real progressives. They were not really radical. And David Marais had that little edge, which made him different from the other cartoonists working in the predominantly white liberal media.